Hello and welcome to my overview, demo, tutorial, whatever it is, my look at RealSpace360 Cinema, a standalone plugin by Visisonics. I'm using the 60-day free evaluation. As you can see, wait for this to load. Today I'm going to show you a little bit about automating audio, the position and depth and whatnot. First, let's have a look at the little program. Let's move that there. Okay, so here we have the video area. This is where you drag and drop a video file, MP4 or other files, 360. This is the 3D perspective panel, which allows you to see the perspective from side, front, or top, which I use mostly. This gives you perspective from the camera's view, which is represented by the head. You then have the tracks and audio information down here, as well as a timeline for your keyframes, a transport section, which is common in most DAWs. The keyframes in the timeline are represented by these points in time, as you can see, which we use to automate the audio. So now I'll show you some of the files that I'll be using for this demonstration. Here we have some of the files I use for the project. Here is a pre-stitched MP4 video using Gear 360 from the Samsung device. I'm using a 360 camera from Samsung 2017 edition. That purple screen, don't worry about it, it's an artifact. Just press play like you saw there, that you can get past that if you have that. So yeah, you can also extract the audio from the camera itself by hitting options and hitting that selection. It then creates an object. We don't need it for today. That's also the file it's extracted. Okay, so these are mono sources. So these are monos signals that we captured on the day. Piano mono, drums mono, and the guitar, as you can see. Yeah, so they are all controllable, as you'll see later on. Here we have a W-axis Blue Hop WAV, which is a 4-channel WAV file. There's the Sennheiser Ambisonic here, as you can see, going into the tie lines into the studio. I didn't use the official format, I just summed all of the channels together to create what is effectively an omnidirectional recording. And I used Reaper, to do this, to create the 4-channel. As you drag it in, you can see that it asks for different formats. Just go with the standard, and you can see the 4 channels represented. And for this project, I used this essentially in combination with other individual sources. For this example, I'm just going to take the vocal. You can see here that they are set at a level. Sorry if you can't hear my voice. Now the audio positioning is a bit off because the W-axis essentially is not in the correct position. To correct this, you'd have to use your ears and the perspective of the object, and you'd have to move these axes to essentially position. And you can hear that it does good drastic changes. But yes, we don't really need that for this demonstration, I'm only going to be using a single mono source, which you can see here is going to be the vocalist, because he's the only one that moves dynamically, physically. I mean, he changes his position in the timeline, along the timeline, so that we want this to be represented to create an immersive experience. Essentially, we don't want it to just be a static sound. We want to create that movement so that if you're looking in a different direction, you can feel the presence change, and depending on the direction of your attention. So here we are. With that being said, we need to find a position where he starts to speak or rap. I use top-down perspective because that gives you a good perception of distance, so you can use the different axes controllers to change the position of the sound object within the 3D environment. You can do it up and down, obviously, but because the camera's perspective is fixed, other than its rotation ability, will keep the height to ear level, essentially, or the camera's level. As you see, it's created a keyframe as I've changed the position, and every time you move the object using these axes, when a new keyframe position is selected, it creates a new point and animates between those points. So you can see as I'm moving along, changing the position depending on whether it's closer or further, it draws in a line using the 3D view, and this is then also created into the video perspective, sorry. So just keep making a few adjustments. The distance, this is really to start animating the position of the sound source. Obviously this sound source was actually captured from that speaker just behind the vocalist, but I'm using these mono sources, spot mics, to control the individual sound sources. So using these techniques, positioning techniques, this will change the panning essentially, and positioning of the object, to create that illusion of position. We haven't touched audio yet, but if we have a listen to that section.
And I say, getting there, not getting anywhere, get big, get better, hair, get debonair. I bet you both found love, but you're never there. I bet you both get drunk, but you're well aware. Worn down straight to the numb, and the weathering stuck in a rub. What's up, everything? There's rain in the morning sky. And everybody's got to get a niche affliction. My problem's in a neat prescription. Everybody's got to get a piece of fiction.
So you can hear volume changes, but that is really just an illusion using panning. So we haven't really automated much as far as volume.
Getting there, not getting anywhere, get big, get better, hair, get debonair. I bet you both found love, but you're never there. I bet you both get drunk, but you're well aware.
So this is sticking at 0 dB along the keyframe positions. Down here you can see the decibel level, which we can edit. So in this position where he's close to the camera, we want it to be louder, so I'm going to make an exaggerated sound of +6. And then we need to find the positions where the depth changes or the distance changes. So I'm now going to find where he's now furthest back and try and create a gradual decrease of volume. Sometimes it's a bit fiddly. So in this position I'm going to create somewhere in between that and play around with these points to create essentially an envelope. If you've used to those, it's the best way to visualize it. It's essentially changing the position of the volume. I'm just trying to get it to quickly increase as he moves towards the camera source and decrease as he moves away from it. As he gets really far back, I want to try and bring it down to create this extra depth to the immersion and the change that we're hearing. So I put that to -4 to exaggerate it, and pull that back to the point where he is furthest away. So I'm having a bit of trouble finding these positions. Right, okay. That would be a good addition if they added that.
And I say, getting there, not getting anywhere, get big, get better, hair, get debonair. I bet you both found love, but you're never there. I bet you both get drunk, but you're well aware, worn down straight to the numb, and the weathering stuck in a rock, what's up, everything. There's rain in the morning.
So you can see that's not the best. So I'm going to try and see if I can get it. Some of these keyframes are getting in the way of the volume transition. But we need to find. You know, you can spend hours doing these things, and this is just me essentially giving you a quick look at what we are doing. Try and see if we can notice the changes from different positions. So as he comes up to my right ear,
and I say, getting there, not getting anywhere, get big, get better, hair, get debonair. I bet you both found love, but you're never there. I bet you both get drunk, but you're well aware, worn down straight to the numb, and the weathering stuck in a rock, what's up.
so it's definitely noticeable as he comes right up, and it's noticeable more as he leaves. We'll try from behind.
And I say, getting there, not getting anywhere, get big, get better, hair, get debonair. I bet you both found love.
So yeah, you can definitely hear him as he moves away a lot more. Now I'm going to show you the final project that I spent a lot of time with, all the mono sources. I'm just going to open it again. Make sure you open projects from within RealSpace, as I've found it doesn't work as easy. So this, I've used all of the sources in that folder. I'll just show you, I'm just going to have a little move around. This is with the W axis, which is essentially the omnidirectional source, very low down in the mix, just to create a sort of room mic essentially, which can capture the movement of people as well as the base or foundation of the track. See here we've got some automation of the vocalist, which you can see moving in both perspectives. And it really does, it's the most accurate Ambisonic example I've heard personally. Yeah, and it creates a very natural live feel. I feel that it's limited in some respects, but I'll show you the different elements individually. So this is the omnidirectional, the W axis out of the Ambisonic microphone. So this is all capsules summed to one 4-channel. And it sounds very good. Sounds pretty good. The guitar. Piano quite distant. The vocal obviously automating the most. Swinging around to the left ear. Let's bring it forward a little bit when the analog comes in. And yeah, that's just an example of it, really. Showing the different elements, how you can position them, and what they sound like as you move around. And this is probably the most, obviously it's the only dynamically moving part in the entire performance, but you can see it, you know, moves around, and it gives you a good clear visual representation, which I think's the best so far out there. You can then export it easily to YouTube, Facebook. I would say stay away from real time, as I've had problems where it only exports 15 seconds. Just stick to offline mode, which is without real time, and then click save and you're able to export. One thing I would suggest is to really plan what kind of recording you want to get, as it's more about the planning and prep before these sessions. But I would suggest, staying away from Ambisonic formats, only because there's not really the software out there that allows you to deal with them easily. And I mean, it's not an easy subject area, but this is 100%, other than the W axes, this is 100% mono sources, and you can get the same effect. And when you think of in real life, everything is just essentially an omnidirectional mono source. I mean, from its when it's been emitted, it's coming from one position, unless it's on most occasions sounds come from one position, and we hear it in that way. And so I think this is a good representation of realistic hearing, or at least the start of it, and it's a look into the future. But yeah, please have a look at the final product. There'll be a Facebook version and a YouTube version, as the rendering is very different for each one. There's a definite conversion, and I believe I made a slight mistake in that my recordings were at 48 sample rate, whereas YouTube and Facebook convert down to 44.1, which is obviously I'm losing a little bit there, and that's the noticeable, greatly noticeable. Yeah, if there's any questions, please comment. Let me know. I'll be doing some more videos. This is more of a sort of random babble, but yeah, hopefully this was a good visual look into something you might be wishing to get into as well. Not really a tutorial, it was more just a sort of look at what I was doing. Yeah, please check out the final products, essentially. But yeah, see you later.